All right.
Oh, just, I think they're so far beyond that.
We'll begin tonight's joint meeting between the select board and the finance committee for April 10th, 2024.
Mr. Chair, I moved that we go out of order to listen to hear the Conservation Commission. Second, there's no objection. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Come on.
Hello. So we've been talking internally a bit.
Could you just introduce yourself, please?
Hi, Kimberly Roth, Chair of the Conservation Commission. We've been talking a bit internally about some administrative assistance that we truly need in order to address public comments and concerns in a expeditious manner. There's daytime administrative needs that the commission volunteers just can't provide. So it's just really becoming more and more difficult, I think, to serve the public effectively. And, I know there's a lot of new development going on, business concerns, and we thought that it would be a good time to think about a more dedicated staff time. So Sean had said that this may not be feasible during this budget cycle, but maybe we could talk about some outside consulting services.
Mr. Chair.
Sure.
Yeah, the idea was to, knowing the short time frame we had, instead of trying to force through a position that we don't know the scope yet, to maybe contract someone, which other towns do, to help with consulting services for the next fiscal year, to give us an idea of what the need is professionally, whether it's a half-time position, whether it's a shared position with the town. It is an essential. I think people, I've only been on the Conservation Commission for about a month, but it's not, it's a very technical and essential part of development in town. I think people seem to think it's, tree huggers trying to stop development. It's very technical as far as the Wetlands Protection Act and making sure that development adheres to state law so that it can happen in town. It's not prohibitive. It's actually, I'm not saying the right words, but it's very technical. And I think the staff that I think it deserves technical staff to help write the orders that we need to help with things like that. And I think that we should explore looking into some kind of consultant to help us out. It's not unprecedented. I know Angela was looking into comp towns as far as what they use. And so that's, sorry. She sent something over?
She said she called a few towns. They used an MACC list, Massachusetts Association of Conservation Commissions. She sent over a PDF, and that particular PDF is more for when we seek a third-party review.
Okay.
Not that particular list is not what we would be looking for like day-to-day administrative help, site visits, enforcement compliance, questions. In a timely manner.
So it'd be more of a conservation agent
Yes.
than an admin
Yes.
assistant position.
I mean, I think the ultimate goal would be to move toward there, knowing the challenge of getting a new position through in this before town meeting. I think we thought that trying to find some money to contract someone for the next year as far as a consultant would give us a better idea of how long. What the scope of this position is, since it is new. So it's kind of trying it out with some professional help that does it all. What that costs, I'm not sure.
I just have a couple questions.
Yeah.
I should know this, but I don't. Who's on? How many people are on the conservation committee, and is it like a volunteer committee?
Yes. So
much so.
we're supposed to have 5 members. We currently have 4.
Right, I was pointing because they were having trouble making a quorum. So,
Mhm.
but again, it's a very technical.
And who like reaches out, who's reaching out to the conservation committee? People from the town, businesses, both?
Yes.
If you want to do something in town, if you want to develop and it affects wetlands, or it's chiefly wetlands, which is a lot in this town.
So there's wetlands and rivers, there's various wetland resource areas, but a lot of our main triggers are the perennial streams in town and streams in town. We have a few large remaining wetland complexes that people are developing around, but for the most part, most of our triggers are streams.
So if someone right today wants to reach out to the conservation committee, there's like an email address on the town website and that goes to who?
It goes to the permitting clerk's office.
Okay, and then they reach out to you?
Right.
And how often does your board meet?
Once a month.
And do you know off the top of your head, like how many emails come in on average, like a month?
I have not counted. It fluctuates. I think there's probably more in this time period because people are trying to develop. But year round, it can be anywhere from 10 a week to more.
10 a week?
But those are single projects. So that I really don't have scope on the number of emails. Phone calls come in, walk-ins come in. And those are even harder to service because they're asking questions of town staff that are very technical in nature that they're not able to address. So sometimes they try to call us at work. We
Mm.
can't necessarily pick up during those times. So then it's, emails back and forth, phone calls, and it can take days sometimes to get a response.
So the issue is we have staff that can answer the phone calls or the emails, but they don't always have like the technical answers for
Yes.
those who are reaching out.
And these are projects these aren't one and dones. Like, it's not one phone call and done.
Yeah.
These projects, I mean, I've been to 3 or 4 meetings and it's the same projects. It takes a while to get these things checked off because we only meet once a month. So it's back to the planning board or to a, peer review. It just, it's not a common Dex license. It's like I said, I'm awestruck at how technical it is. Go ahead.
I'm 100% in favor of this, and as Sean, if he hasn't, he will point out, we're lucky that some of the board members on that board are extremely qualified. So, you don't always get that. And I think it's to expect them to handle a workload, to handle technical questions that are coming in from developers when they only meet once a month and they're a volunteer group. I think it's an unfair burden to kind of like to place on them to have to deal with that. Plus, there's the other side of it is some of the, sometimes, if you're in development, you have deadlines and stuff, and sometimes it's difficult to have to wait to get answers. So as a service, I'm sure the director of economic development would be on board with this too, because this does facilitate a lot of the development. I think it's long overdue. I mean, we have actually had discussions about it a couple of years ago. We just discussed it. It didn't really go anywhere. But I'm 100% in favor of it. I don't know how they've been. I mean, God bless you for getting by as long as you have
I know.
without
Really.
that person. But I think it's long overdue.
Is there any position though like you just made me think, like, is there anybody in the town hall that has this kind of knowledge that could like jump in, that is employed like already here? Nobody on your board, but
I'll defer to the chair.
I don't know that they do.
Can we just,
So-
you just help us out as far as surrounding towns, like item towns that I know Bolton has a full-time person?
Bolton has a full-time person. Lancaster just hired a new full-time person. Sterling usually has a half-time person. Shirley has a half-time person. Pretty much all of our neighbors have Berlin has a half-time person. So most of our neighbors have some sort of agent. And it's not just answering questions. This person is expected to go out to site visits with developers, with homeowners, and be able to give them technical advice immediately. They should be able to go out identify wetland resource areas, be able to perform a site visit, report back to us, compliance checks during the construction period that are protective, making sure that erosion control is maintained, siltation devices are maintained. So there's, which I can't do that all day long. That is supposed to be somebody's job.
Yeah.
We do our best to do enforcement complaint follow-ups. That usually happens on evening and weekends when it does.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, and not to beat this horse to death, but like, I think it's, the goal of this board has been to provide policy boards with administrative or enforcement professional help to do the job during the day, whether that's, superintendent of schools or a town administrator, just someone boots on the ground who can do the things that we can't do, that we want to do, but, to take our will and to make it into something. I guess it's the noun to the verb, like, we want the noun, but we have to do the verb. So I think that's just an extension here, and, it's a bigger conversation as far as town planner or things like that, but it's an essential mission, and I think we need that.
So if we're looking also, if we're thinking about a town planner, many municipalities have a town
Right.
planner, conservation agent to a position. Most of in the central region, which is the region I work in during my day job professionally, they will have conservation administrator, conservation agent. Sometimes they have inspection folks that go just do inspections. Sometimes they work with the building department.
And I'm not saying we go that far.
Right,
like,
I'm just like,
this is I think
it's a
good
bigger project.
like
Yeah.
a good tip and put our toe in the water to see, because I think we want an advantage. If we want to keep our advantage, I know some towns in the area are not developing like we are, and it's hurting their new growth. And so I think if we want to be that town that provides an advantage to developers, I think we need to have the staff to do that. And I think that maybe finding some money for the next year to look at a consultant to see what that need is, what the scope is, whether we come back in a year or 2 years and make it happen. I think this is just a good, Mr. Chairman, at a loss of words.
No, but, so I think if you're identifying a need now, I would rather avoid timeline of 2 years down the road, right?
Right, we're trying to be realistic. They need the help now.
Right.
So if we can put $20,000 or $30,000 toward a consultant for a year and give us time to plan like what the a position would be if we need one, I think that's.
But when you say consultant, you mean like hiring somebody who can do this work on a per diem or
Yes.
consultant basis only to see if we need to make room for a full-time or part-time hire?
There are towns in our region that do that. They do it through various mechanisms. I was hoping that Angela would have.
Mine's behind you.
I was hoping that there would be a more reporting back on exactly how the administrative way it works. Some towns will put X amount of dollars in an escrow account that the person who's applying puts in, and then the consulting agent pulls from that for site visits, et cetera, paperwork, et cetera. And when they come back with their certificate of compliance, if the project was completed, they get whatever's left over from that account back. So it's kind of like a way to get compliance as well. Some have, their budget that they pull out of on a as needed basis. So
Right, the assistant.
there's various ways that this could happen.
So that's very similar to how the escrow account works down in the building department, right? It's similar concept, so it already.
Mr. Chairman, I was on the Conservation Commission for about 10 years, maybe 20 years ago. And I was also on it for a year or so with Mr. Conway when I was on the Board of Selectmen because they didn't have a quorum.
And then I came.
Huh?
And then I came.
Then you came. And I was very happy to see her come because she has great expertise, which we didn't have. I mean, and basically, when it was strictly a volunteer board, which I was a part of, developers could come in and tell us anything. And we didn't know, we did our best, but we didn't know any better. And then when she came in and I saw her in action, I said, oh my gosh, these guys are showing us this time. I'm gonna say this, we're a valley town. You can't go from one end of the town of Clinton to the other without going down the hill and up the hill. That's because we're in the valley. There's wetlands all over the place. As a guy once said to me when I was on the Conservation Commission, no, there's no wetlands down there except for a brook, which I found very humorous. There's a lot of wetlands. It's a very technical field. I'm not positive, but I would doubt that there is anyone on staff that is truly capable of doing the job. I mean, you've got to be familiar with wetland plants, with perk rates, how the water flows and the intermittent. It's a very specialized field. 20 years ago, we were talking about getting a consultant because we were somewhat aware that probably we weren't capable of judging what should be done and what shouldn't be done because it was so technical. So, I mean, I think this is a reasonable request.
So how do we want to proceed as far as coming up with a number?
Angela's has some comp towns, so maybe we can check with her and get you a better idea.
Mhm.
We still have some meetings. You have meetings.
This is the last like budget night, but then yeah, we'll have like some like subcommittee meetings too.
We could talk a little bit about the wetlands fee budget as well. I don't know
Oh, shit,
track-
sorry. Yeah.
if we track that down.
The wetlands what?
Fee. So when folks apply, they pay a fee that's supposed to defray the cost of our time in review, but and it's supposed to go into an account that's only for the administration and enforcement of the Wetlands Protection Act. I've never seen that account. We don't usually come before you for a budget, except for Russia Farm Subcommittee stuff, because we don't need much other than now with, it's just become a little more than I can handle bandwidth wise in terms of day job,
It is.
night job, family, etc. So I have never looked into that budget, so I was hoping to see if we could find that. Okay.
Well, so can you just come up to the table only because the
Everyone's watching.
Friends at home. When we watch it later, we want to hear it.
Hi, Diane Magliozzi, Town Accountant. There is a separate fund.
Hmm.
The fees go into the fund. I don't know that we've ever expended from it.
That's right.
I cannot tell you the balance right now. But if you want to get in touch with me, send me an email.
Okay.
I can tell you what the balance is, but anytime there's revenue,
Mhm.
a deposit from somebody, it's set aside from the town budget.
So perhaps that we could do just a per diem for applicants to pay for their, to an escrow account, and could use that money for other administration and enforcement.
But let's come up, let's find a number and then we can always
Yeah.
figure out the
there
logistics of
may-
it after.
There may be a little bit more we can piecemeal together.
So the next step will be then for the assistant town administrator.
Yeah, we'll check the balance to see if that can give us a jump start. If that and the escrow gets this going, then maybe that will help. But we'll also check the comp towns and see what they're spending.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I
The
think-
consultant we're looking for.
I just want to say,
Consultant that does consulting and works at the same time, or is it just gonna be a consultant that's doing the study?
It's
mean,
not,
oh,
it's
no,
not-
no,
This is,
go.
A consulting agent, so they would be working as an agent for the commission, but on a consultant fee basis,
Yeah.
like a contract.
contract.
Okay, so he's not really doing the study.
No, no, no.
No,
No.
just doing the work.
We'll see. And if that, I think the idea, not to take words out of your mouth, is to see what that contracted agent, how much workload there is, and that would give us some guidance as far as planning a position in the future.
Can I just say thank you for all the time and effort you've put into this? I recognize it's a volunteer position and obviously it's a ton of work, so just wanted to say thank you.
Say thank you, and then thank you on behalf of the other commissioners who also put in quite a bit of time. So absolutely, thank you guys.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Very much. Present company excluded. It's
It's been fun though, right?
oh, super fun. I haven't felt so stupid in a long.
Yeah.
Finance committee is volunteer too.
Yeah. I mean, I think everyone in this room knows what it's like
We
to
look for it.
You got an extra seat if you.
add it. I know, I know.
All right.
Add it in.
Next item,
Thanks.
Department of Public Works.
Afternoon, Kevin Bartlett, Superintendent of Public Works. Thank you for having me. Go easy on me. My first go around here in Clinton with the budget. Chris did help me a little along with Diane. So I'm still trying to figure everything out. So where, you want me to just start pulling off where I have any particular order or?
Yeah, I think just,
My sheets are probably more out of line, so if you have a packet that has one, I can go off of that to
Yeah.
make it easier for everybody.
we have the overall budget and then the enterprise funds.
Okay.
And really, obviously we know like wages are, go up year over year, things like that, but just anything that you want to call out that you're asking for more on or less on, would be helpful.
Okay. So the overall on the, I call it the DPW budget, the regular, budget for the road department. Basically, the salaries have gone up. Everything that pretty much I've stayed pretty close to what was there because we have good amounts left over in the budget here in April. So I didn't really go too far on that. There have been a couple of, step raises for the workers.
Question, where are you at with contracts for them? Are they like in a contract year? Or did they?
They have it. Yeah, they're good till,
Next
Yeah.
June? Okay.
yeah, June 2025.
Okay.
June 2025. So, let's see. So on the miscellaneous worksheet, which I just did for the public works part, just like going down, heat, light, power. I think I bumped that up. I think like 10-15,000. Of course, I don't have my other notes with me. Just because of everything rising, the price of electricity and heat and oil. Said everything else is pretty much the consultant services. That was added in for DP mandates for MS4 stormwater permitting that we have to do every year to the state.
For the phone bill, how many cell phones are within the department roughly, and you have an idea on that roughly? Just trying to figure out what's behind that number.
So it is one, two, I want to say approximately 3 or 4 cell phones plus tablets that have the cell phone capability. So and then I think that's all tied in also with the all the pump stations, the water booster pump stations, the sewer pump stations, the SCADA systems for the water for the water tanks and the water filtration plant. Plus
So-
that with all the building landlines.
All right, so that's more so than just the cell phone aspect.
Yes, yes.
Mr. Chairman, can I just, I wanted to go back, Kevin, if I could, just on the electric, gas and oil, on the gas and the pumps. Do we still competitively bid for the gas every year, or how is the town maintaining them?
I'm not 100% sure about that. For the, like the propane, like the
No, down at the station.
Oh,
down at
the station.
Bragg,
Oh, yeah,
down
yeah.
at
Oh,
Bragg.
so for the regular vehicle fuel.
Right.
Yeah, the fuel. Yes, they're in a in a sortion bid,
Okay.
which I don't know how long we've been doing that. Many years.
Do we find that that's cost saving for the town?
Yeah, they do, I don't know the numbers specifically, but they're doing a consortium with a bunch of other towns that pool the gallons volume and then go out to bid into the consortium. So how that pricing reflects.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be curious, just, I know that gas isn't cheap, that's for sure.
No,
but-
it's only
Can I,
been-
I didn't know
just
if-
ask, Michael, would you mind sitting up here only because I know Mark had mentioned that anybody that speaks within the audience, there's no volume for people to hear at home, so I think, the information you're sharing is all part of the discussion, so I don't know if the microphone. I had to put you on the spot, but
Just to repeat what I said, yeah, okay, sure. Down at the department, Clinton is member of a consortium with a bunch of other entities that pool their volume need and then go out to bid to the market for that. So we can look to see how what price they're getting currently compares to the market, and and how that may be compared to other joint purchase groups around there as well.
very good. Thank you.
Question on the snow house budget.
Yes.
You can carry negative balance from one year to another on that account. Do you know where that's account is now?
I do. Just looked at it this morning.
While Mr. Bartlett's looking at that, I know a couple of years ago, we did kind of do a historical perspective on it. So we budget 460 in the appropriation, and then anything over and above gets added on to the next budget, right off the top. We've been averaging the last couple of years about $100,000, 95, 100,000. Before, we used to have 60,000 in there, but then looking back at like a 10-year history, it was, more than $500,000 every year. So the selectmen and finance committee put 400,000 in, and it's been 460 for several years now, but we're still going over every year, but by a much smaller amount. So whether you want to look at doing that analysis again, or, if the overage isn't, I mean, some years we'd have the overage hundreds of thousands of dollars. So we're starting off the new fiscal year, that deficit has to be raised up automatically. So by this way, at least that difference has shrunk quite a bit. And we can look back and say, okay, the last 5 years, it hasn't been, it hasn't been less than 100,000. You could bump that up by another 40 or 50, to certainly, it doesn't need to be over, because you do have that ability to raise it. So if it's way high, then it's a mild winter, then that money's just sitting there. But if we're over every year, and we're looking to start out in the hole every year, then it's worth taking a look at.
Might be worth taking a look at. Rather than be in the hole every year. A good year with a few bucks in there.
Right. The budget supports
They
it.
don't start a new year already in the hole.
Yep, exactly. Yep, good point.
So right now, as of today, in the snow budget, there's $59,296 and 20 cents left over. And that's not including this past storm Tuesday, so that's probably gonna be maybe $7,000 or $8,000 with we've got a couple more loads of salt to replenish the salt shed.
You're about 50.
But we can give you a
50
10-year,
ballpark.
10-year listing of how much, what the overage was for the past 10 years. We can present that to the two boards. You can take a look.
Thank you.
So. Does anyone have any other questions on the, for the road division? You want to move on to
No.
well, you want to go over the capital projects?
Sure.
So far with the capital projects or capital purchases for equipment and trucks. I put in here for a requesting 45,000 for a public works superintendent pickup truck. The truck that I drive now is going to need some work. It's rotted out. The frame and the rocket panels are all rotted. It's gonna take significant amount of money to repair it. It's a 2010 Ford pickup there.
So if money's approved for that, what do you do with the truck that's falling apart?
We could sell it surplus or put it on the auction and get rid of it.
We would not keep it and use it?
I don't think it's worth the added headache myself.
Yeah,
I don't know
if it's rotting, then.
Yeah. I also put down for a new backhoe for the road department. The one that they have is a 2006, I believe. It's getting aged. Just time to look forward to moving.
So for the backhoe, I know the facilities department had also mentioned about possibly a mini excavator. I mean, would that backhoe be something that could be transferred to facilities as far as for what they need over there for digging graves? Would that be feasible
Absolutely.
if it's not, it's at that point, it's not driving all over town.
Right.
But if it was to stay on site there, then.
Yeah, we'd have a little trailer you could tow it around to job sites too.
You talking about the old one or the new one that?
The old one that he's looking to replace, could we repurpose that over at the cemetery, or at the very least at the cemetery?
Oh, the backhoe.
Backhoe.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yep.
Oh.
So
Yeah, I wouldn't see one. I mean, it is operational. It's just,
for what you need it for,
Versus
it's
what they-
older
yeah.
versus
it's a little bit
digging.
easier digging in the cemetery versus digging up asphalt and rocks and such
Yeah.
in the roadways.
So I think Brian had set aside about 120,000 for the mini excavator, and I think that's the backhoe that they currently use
Yeah,
for digging,
yes.
as it is.
Yeah, the facilities is asking for, I don't know if the difference with mini excavator, backhoe, I don't know what one has over the other. It would be a similar type functionality.
Well, the backhoe you can drive over the roads. Excavator when you can, but it's gonna take forever and a day to get it there without a trailer.
So I think that was the intent of Brian's request, was for grave digging.
Right.
And that's the backhoe that the DPW is looking to replace, is what they use to dig the graves as it is. But I mean, if there's another reason Brian is looking for the mini excavator, you can weigh in on that, but.
There isn't a size difference like this for, I mean, in terms of, I don't know if he was looking for for what he was doing, that he needed something smaller or
Yes.
bigger? Or
Yes, I think it was more for
Trenching.
be able to maneuver around like the headstones in the cemetery, to be able to get to some of the harder to dig areas, so you're not on top of other graves. So kind of be able to move around a lot easier, and I think it's a lot lighter too than a,
That's something we can at least explore with
Big
him to see
backhoe.
if it's something that, if he could use this in its place, you know?
right, at least have something.
Yeah, because I mean, if there's one-offs where they
Right.
would need a mini, you can rent a mini as needed. If, you know, if it's only a few times a year versus if it's all the time, then yeah, explore looking at purchasing one, but.
Also a compact front end loader, that would basically replace the Bobcat skid steer machine that has, I think that has pretty much passed its lifespan. But this one here, I had spec'd it out for a high flow secondary hydraulic, so we can run the mini asphalt milling machine that used to go on front of the Bobcat, just to make it more versatile. Also be good for snow removal for High Street, be able to go around with that to move snow. They're again more easier to get around in the spots where space is tight. What I had talked to Mike about this kind of almost in passing, but to take the surplus equipment from what was left over from the landfill, the 2 dozers and the roller, is to possibly put that on auction to get money for that, and to put that money back into like the landfill fund, and then take it out of that to help pay for this other equipment. Well, if that's feasible, or there is state approved auction sites. That's all, the 30B compatible, so
That's not equipment we could use, other than auctioning it off.
unfortunately not.
Big stuff.
Yeah, big dozers, big roller.
Not to put you on the spot, would you have an idea as to what that might fetch?
They had gotten quotes for like a trade-in value. I think one of the dozers was 160,000 and one was 90,000. And I think the roller was either 80 or 90,000. I mean, it's nothing that we can use it for now.
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman, where are they being stored now?
One of them is at the DPW yard, and the roller and the other bulldozer is still up at the landfill, locked up behind the gate.
That project's 100% done?
98%.
Oh,
There's still, we just had an inspection up there 2 weeks ago, and there was, from all the heavy rain during the winter and this early spring, there's been some washouts that the grass hasn't germinated yet from what they put down last fall. So it's still washing out. So there's a few spots that need to be touched up, but other than that, it's in good shape.
And the landfill is going to be continuous monitoring and repairing and fixing and well monitoring for the next 20, 30 years. But the final project completion certificate has been submitted to DEP, so they're reviewing it right now. So all in terms of the work of the project is done. It's just the maintenance of the property now going forward, so. So even though you'll see in the landfill enterprise fund that, that the personnel have been reallocated. There still will need to be money in there every year to keep up with the maintenance and monitoring.
I also put in a request for a rear load refuse truck, a trash truck. These trucks are running 5 days a week, 7 hours a day. Running around picking up trash, doing the recycling.
How many of those got around there? How many trash?
So there's, on the weeks of recycling, there's 2 trucks, and then on the bi-week, there's 1 truck doing the pickup. So there's a total of 3. I apologize, I'm not up to snuff yet on all the years of the equipment. I know that they have one that is the backup, one is the recycling, then one is the newest one, which is the one that does every day, regular trash pickup. So they do have a backup in case one breaks, because they do break down frequently. A lot of moving components to them. And we had actually gotten a couple of quotes for that, and this number might be a little bit low. The cost of equipment has just it's skyrocketed. We got one quote for $455,000 for a trash truck. And I think the last purchase, I think it was if I remember correctly, from what I was told, it was a lease. So that was paid out of the regular budget every year for that trash truck. I think it was 147,000 each year. It was not, I'm sorry, 47,000, 42 or 47,000 each year was taken out for the lease of the truck.
Through the rubbish enterprise fund.
Yeah.
So those fees would support that service. So we would lease it over 5-year periods, and then it would break up the costs out of the enterprise.
Is there any benefit to leasing versus purchasing?
Yeah, I mean, there's certainly going to be you'll save interest costs by purchasing outright, but then you're buying it over a period of time. The rubbish enterprise fund probably wouldn't be able to afford to buy that upfront, to be able to maintain operations. So by spreading it out over 5 years, to just keep up with paying, but then you're paying the interest to use their money for 5 years. So it's however you want to.
What would be the lifespan of a rubbish truck?
I think the backup is, I want to say, like approximately 20 years old.
Oh, okay.
So I think Chris was trying to do one every 5 or 6 years, 5 or 8 years possibly.
Right.
For
Yeah,
that turnaround.
Yeah, it's probably been 5. Yes, that's what.
And I was told it takes at least 2 years upon ordering it to get delivery. So that's not a quick turnaround also.
Fire trucks.
And the last thing that equipment is a 6-wheel Freightliner with chassis mounted sander and snow plow. A lot of the snow fighting equipment is aged. It just Luckily, in the last few years, we've had easy winters. But this will be replacing, I think it was 96 possibly, 96 Ford 8,000. And that's a estimate of 180,000 for them.
Is there a long wait for that also?
I don't believe so. I'm not 100% sure on that. It's probably at least six months, 6 months to 8 months out. It's usually what it takes for those.
The fire department chief said same thing for the ambulance. Yeah, 2 years, I believe. But he says if you put an order in now and you don't end up using, but taking it, they can sell it right away. There's no problem. So I'm
Right.
saying, should we, if we're gonna have to even have a problem, should we think about doing something like that?
Not a bad idea.
Make sure we can, if we don't use it, make sure we can get our money.
Right, absolutely.
All right. Water sewer, is there anything? Who has any questions on or anything you want to highlight?
It just looks like the debt and interest. I have no idea what that is, but I'm sure there's a reason why that looks like it's the only line item that really went up significantly. That must be due to some. Sure.
That I would have to ask Diane on. I'm not 100% sure.
Okay. So might come back to that.
Same things. So
So,
there's nothing about the one for water and sewer enterprise?
Yep.
You said it's gone up quite a bit.
The debt and interest, WDAP, debt and interest.
650.
No, below that.
Because mine's, you're on around 160 to 260.
160 to 260,
Okay.
last line, before the total.
Okay.
Anything on rubbish?
So on the rubbish, what we have is the one that I went up the most was the compacted maintenance, which is the rubbish truck. Just because the age of the trucks themselves. That they've, just the price of parts have gone, they've been going up for, 3-4 years now at 8-10% a year regardless. It's unfortunately, that's the new norm for that. So the compactor maintenance and the miscellaneous maintenance, that stayed.
Sounds good. So Mike, to your point on the landfill enterprise fund, like, will that stay open as an enterprise? Like, because of the ongoing maintenance?
So there's money there that's in the enterprise fund that was raised for the purpose of that landfill operations and maintenance, so that money would stay in there.
Yeah.
Otherwise, if we closed it, then we'd have to fund that by the general fund. But I think, there was special legislation to allow any excess or unused money to be transferred to the general fund. But I think until they really get a a handle on what the yearly maintenance cost is gonna be, and if it's gonna be for 3 years. Want to make sure that there's enough left in there to be appropriated every year, so it doesn't impact the general fund.
So that's what, like, so the numbers are put in here just to kind of like make sure that something is in there so that we can, if needed,
Excuse me.
use it.
Excuse me. But I think, I'm sorry. I think the money that's in there is money that we spent for this fiscal year. So take a look at the number.
So what kind of like miscellaneous expenses would come from, like, would have to be appropriated from that?
So I know definitely like in terms of the engineering and permitting service, that there will be the engineering firm that they'll be doing the sampling and the monitoring. There has to be mowing, whether the department will do it or they contract that out. It would have to be mowed so many times a year so that there isn't growth of trees and any brush growth that would penetrate the cap. Contractors, we could take a look at. I'm not sure what the contractor services would be if there's repairs that's needed or other work that you might be using.
Yeah, so that would be exactly like for repairing the landfill. The other thing that we have to remember too is that it's just not the landfill itself. We have the two basins at the bottom in South Meadow that we still have to maintain and repair, which we have to do this week. But that's another cost of that. Well, containment basins.
So are we saying that we are anticipating that we're going to spend $434,000 maintaining the landfill this year?
Yeah, I think that's what's being budgeted. Whether once they start, this will be the first year of going through that process. So I think once they get those numbers, they'll have a better handle on it this year because it only technically just closed at the end of the calendar year of 23. So it's only just been closed a few months. So I think that I assume that they're probably, being conservative to make sure there's enough money in there because what's not spent will just revert back to the enterprise fund. So then it can't be used in any other operations anyway. So that way, if they have enough money to do what they need, what's not used will close out. And then next year, they should have a pretty good list of what was spent on this year's operation. So next year's budget, they can have a harder figure. I think these are all estimates right now.
Would we estimate that the cost of maintaining the landfill would go down over the years or would it rise over?
I would expect it would go down. I mean, once they get the growth, the permanent growth up there, stabilize all those slopes, that shouldn't be any major washouts or major repairs. So it would really be mostly the, taking the sampling, the reports that go to DEP, the mowing, definitely the debt and interest until that's paid off, which is only 32,000 for this year. So that would cover all the borrowing costs. So it definitely should go down over time.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I really think that those two retention basins are gonna be probably the most money that we'll have to spend on the landfill project in the future, hopefully.
So that's from now until never? Or?
Yeah, I know in the past, and I'm not sure what the regulations are now. I know in the past, the previous landfill was 30 years. So whether now that this is a plastic line landfill, is it still 30 years? I can check on that. I'm not really sure what I know it's probably at least 20. So probably at least next 20 plus years that will be doing.
Eventually we'll know it, or someone will tell us that we should be aware we might be spending money for another 30 years.
Oh, yeah. That was all put into this because as part of the, at the beginning of the project, the DEP wanted to make sure that there was money that was put aside. So any of the money that's been transferred over the years into the infrastructure stabilization would always be with the recognition that you still need to save money for the maintenance and monitoring after the landfill's closed. So that could never get zeroed out. And there was, at the beginning of the project, there was an estimate. Engineers came up with an estimate, and I'm sure that changes over time. So that was the number the DEP said always had to be held in escrow. So that you couldn't clear out zero out the fund, but for this money, you know. So that was anticipated at the beginning, and the money was kept in this fund to make sure it doesn't impact the general fund going in the future going forward. Yeah. So, otherwise, you know, this could have all been transferred to the general fund to use for road repair or something, but we wanted to make sure that there was enough in there to take care of that facility, so that 10 years from now, you're not coming back for the town looking for, you know, hundreds of thousands of dollars. So it should cover itself.
Could I?
Sure.
Kevin, just going back to where there was some areas that have been compromised because of the weather, what type of material would you have to go to the DEP to bring that material in, or how would we
No, it'd just be, loom.
just
loom
from,
And reseed it.
Okay.
Hopefully it takes before we get more heavy rain.
okay.
Do you know if there's any way of insuring against something catastrophic happening to that landfill? I mean, as Mike mentioned, if indigenous trees started to grow up there and penetrated the cap, that'd be quite a amount of money to fix that. Is there any way to insure against something like that happening?
Just proper maintenance, pretty much. I mean, really,
I mean,
not like a,
an insurance
I-
policy.
right. I don't know that answer.
Well, the DEP does periodic inspections as well, correct?
Right,
Yeah.
DEP would come out,
Yeah.
I don't know to what their schedule is, but they would come out and take a walk through, you know,
Yeah.
all the time. They just did one with the final closure, and they will do a follow-up on the maintenance, they'll do.
To make sure the town is maintaining what they're supposed to do.
Yes.
Right.
Especially being brand new, they're gonna
Correct.
be watching very closely.
Any other questions?
I only have one question for Mike on just like warrant articles. So for example, like the road improvement warrant article from a couple years ago. How long do we have to spend that money when it's approved for warrant articles?
Hope, you know, in a reasonable amount of time, but I think, unless you disagree, and I think once the money is authorized, it can be established in that fund until the project is completed.
Okay.
You know,
So there's no like state limit on spending it in a certain amount of time.
no, they
Okay.
carry over from year to year, but
Okay.
the only hope is that, you know, if it was needed for a specific reason, that it's 10 years later, it's still
Yeah.
not there because
Right.
why did you ask for the money?
Yeah, but like road improvements seems like something we could just spend over time.
Right,
That
right.
seems reasonable.
Yeah,
Okay.
So I think that's why the boards have been monitoring that. That's why this form is in the budget now, requests, so that you can monitor to make sure that if there is a balance there that has no need to be used, then it should be closed out, you know, at some point, and don't just leave money sitting in the account. We can close it out. So that's why we, you know, through the board, the two boards had asked that we ask that every year. So I think it's a good review to do during this time of year.
Yeah, I mean, that Worcester Street cleanup, right, that will be 7 years, right? 7 years ago. This June.
Is that like done?
Is that one?
They put-
Yeah, is
they
it
put the
complete?
fencing up, but it's still a mess. I mean, now it's the overgrowth right next to like Fuller down there. There had been talk about maybe trying to provide like off-street parking, those
Oh, yeah.
portions, so if we can still use it, great. If not, then I don't know what else they can do down there with it.
Yeah, yeah, and there was such steep slopes, they couldn't get all the way to the bottom, so it wasn't perfectly clean. They just try to get all the major items in order to clean it up, and then put some fencing to try to prevent it in the future. But I think even though the balance is much smaller than what it was, it is an ongoing effort to try to keep that maintained.
The downtown streetscape, was that like the sidewalks and stuff?
And the
Can, can you use that money for like the flowers and things like that downtown or no? I mean, it's like $500,000 and is there anything left to do?
Maybe replace some of those pads down there that are decimated.
The what?
Pads,
The sidewalks.
the sidewalks that are all cracked
Oh.
and
Spalling.
there's more than small. Fault workers down there.
You guys are missing your.
All right, I didn't mean to ask about it. We can move on. Thank you.
Very good. Any other questions? Thank you.
Pretty sweet. I think you did pretty good for your first thing.
Yeah. Good job. I've directed directly at you. But the balances in all these various accounts, are they being kept in an interest bearing accounts? We have a balance in this account, a balance in that account. Are they being kept in an interest bearing? Upward.
Most of them would be interest bearing because a lot of these, correct me if I'm wrong, I'm Diane, but warrant articles are set up as a separate fund, like stabilization, as part of the general fund. And that general fund money, it's on the books as allocated for that project, but the cash is all together in the bank, collecting interest in the bank.
But is that set out for competitive bids with the banks? I mean, the banks are paying pretty good interest rates now. They're very competitive.
Yeah, I don't believe that they put out to bid per se. No, I think it's been kind of utilized in local banks.
No, I can answer that. And according to Mass General Law, the treasurer has certain funds he can invest in certain ways. So the general fund is just a regular checking account. It's what we use out here. Some of the trust and agency funds can be put into their following trust right now, but you couldn't take it, the general fund money to do that. You're not allowed.
But again, if the banks are paying very competitive rates for checking accounts, we're getting 4.5% on our checking account.
I mean, he could change all the banking for the town if you want. He did, he has a few times, but again, that's up to him. It is a big undertaking. Honestly.
Thank you.
I mean, there are times the general checking account doesn't have a lot of money. And what we pay in warrants, we pay 500 something invoices every other week. So the borrowings are due and the school's paying them. It's not always a huge balance.
Yeah, in our state aid comes quarterly, so we've been fortunate that in the past, we were in situations where we would have to do revenue anticipation notes, we'd have to do temporary borrowing for the revenue. When we moved to the quarterly tax billing, that helped bring the cash in much quicker, so we're able to cover. But as the town accountant indicated, there are ebbs and flows that, if you're spending out on the expenditures before that revenue or before the state aid kicks in, that balance could drop, but then it'll pick up once the revenue posts. So, so it does go back and forth. And the stabilization funds, those have much more aggressive investment because those are more stationary funds, other than the general fund, which a lot of ins and outs. So.
Very good.
Thanks. All right, thank you very much. Have a good evening.
You as well. Were you notified that the Board of Health, are they presenting?
Yeah, I assumed, I thought they were coming, my understanding that they were gonna be here.
And this is our last joint meeting, correct? just, so I don't know, do we want to go through the budget, if there's questions, or I'd like the opportunity to have the discussion with the department. I see that there's new equipment, $1,500 for a computer. But again, can we allocate one of the, or whatever we need, if they need a computer, can we allocate that from the consultant? Or from the ARPA purchase, Michael?
Sure, yep, yeah, that office would be included as part of that whole project, so I can talk with them and ask what their expectation was, because this ARPA project was gonna get new computers for all of the employees, not, so if they just have one that's outdated, we're definitely gonna replace that along with some of the others, which should all be done this summer, so.
Um, Yeah, I mean, one of the things that I would like to have had the conversation with either the health agents or the chair of the Board of Health is, I know we've talked about trying to have uniformity with the department hours for all the departments within the town hall or the, yeah. So I think right now that department is not open until 4 PM every day, even though they may be on call. So I would like to have an understanding of the two health agents work 23 hours each per week, and the admin assistant works 23 hours per week, from what I understand. So is it feasible to stagger those shifts so that department is open 8 to 4? I have heard from people that had questions about or concerns about matters related to the health board, but if they went there at 3:30, 4 o'clock, it was closed by that point. So
So how many health, like there's two so are there two health agent salaries? That's for two people? They
Yeah,
work 23 hours?
There's they're retired, so they can't work.
Yeah, those are decent salaries for 23 hours.
that was the result of recent salary study. 22.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know we probably can't do anything about that tonight, right? Their shifts. Unless you want to ask them to come to like your next meeting or something.
You said the office doesn't open until 4 o'clock?
No, it doesn't. It's not open until 8 to 4. You know,
What are the hours of the office?
it's not 8 to 4. That's all.
It's not 8 to, okay, you're saying it's not 8 to 4.
Right. So they.
So I mean, yeah, we'd like them to be uniform, but if they're different, they should at least still be posted, and like everyone should know what they are, so that they are. And I understand the health agents, they might be on the road doing stuff, so I can understand if they're not available, but they have an admin assistant, right? So, I mean, somebody should be manning the office during, at least being able to field phone calls and take messages and stuff, right? I mean, it's worth asking about.
So I guess maybe. What would you suggest? Maybe coming to one of the select board meetings next time, or?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if we have to be there for that type of discussion. I mean, it would, for me, like, I don't know what they advertise, for example. I don't know what MPHN Sharp's disposal is for contractor services. So I think there's still a couple maybe open questions. But like, I'm happy to just email them too, or just meet with them individually on them.
And then the phone bill, would that be cell phone? So, what's the number?
like, yeah, I'm not sure what they have for cell phones, but they have office insurance as well too,
Oh,
so
like
it would
meals?
be
Yeah.
definitely the phone bill and the would be of it. Beyond that, I'm not sure what they have for mobile.
So when the new phone system comes in, how is that? Is that bill still done individually by department, or is that just one cost?
That's a good question. We haven't gotten to that discussion yet. Right now, it does get, individual departments do get billed. So, that's something I can get an answer for.
Yeah, if that's something we could get sooner than later, just because if departments are budgeting for a phone that is not going to be, hopefully, the current model will not be in existence as of July 1, then we can back that out of the department's budget.
And the MPHN, that's the regional health network that they're part of, the Montechusett Public Health Network. That they're in that consortium that help, they kind of provide regional services, to the member communities. So I
Gotcha.
think it, something by the budget description that they do a medical waste, needles, sharps collection. So I'm assuming that they provide the disposal through that consortium.
Gotcha.
There's a quick question on that phone, I guess the mobile phone, office supplies, like, is each department like procuring their own like cell phone plans? Or is there and like office supplies, or are we consolidating that to maybe get a lower price for volume?
No, each department, we do have a town cell phone account, but each department does purchase their own office supplies. So,
Has there been any exploration of buying things that every department uses in a bulk capacity to reduce costs, or?
yeah, we had looked at it in the past for the town hall, not for the whole town wide, but we looked for the town hall. But the use of office supplies per office is small, and each office sometimes have different needs. So you couldn't order a huge bulk of something. So it ended up being to monitor and track the program was going to be a big effort for a small savings or small efficiencies.
So they just purchase it like on Amazon and request reimbursement
For
for anything, like their cell phone bills, office supplies, all these miscellaneous costs. Just submit the bill.
no, in terms of
I didn't hear.
oh yeah,
Would they buy them like from Amazon, or would they go to Staples, or, I mean.
Like, do we have like, yeah, I mean, in a
think
lot of
that's what you
places, it's
said,
like,
right?
yeah, exactly. It's like,
yeah,
we order our supplies from Staples because we get a lower cost because
Yep.
we order all of our supplies from
Yep.
Staples. Or
yeah, but
we all order
have
through
Amazon.
AT&T because we get a lower cost for AT&T. Or is everyone just kind of doing whatever they,
Don't they use the state bid list? They have to buy off the state bid list?
Well, when we have a Staples account, which is, through state pricing, we have an Amazon account. We have a Verizon account that does use the government pricing on that as well too. So, but in terms of individual departments would buy their own, I mean, they would have their own, like with the Amazon and Staples, they have their own login to that, and then they can go on and buy what they need themselves. But it's part of the town contract for doing that. Same with like Verizon, like each office would just call and get whatever they need for cell phones, but it's part of the government plan for Verizon, so.
so that's our procurement process. We have vendors that they use to order that. Okay.
Right. Do they have to use the Verizon? Like, can someone go to AT&T?
Yeah, there's no policy in place to mandate it. I mean, most people do try to look for the lowest price, but there isn't anything mandating that they we offer these available to have people get savings of the budget. And most, I think most departments do utilize those accounts, like through, we have an account with B&H, which a lot of the cable and the electronic equipment comes through there. They have pretty good pricing. So most people, I think, for efficiency, because they can just go on and order, so it's helpful, but also for the savings they get, I think they find that a lot of the contracts we have are better pricing, but there isn't anything that mandates it. No. I think initially I thought when we were talking like bulk buying, that it would be that we would buy, a pallet of paper and distribute it to people. That type of thing.
More just like bulk ordering, I probably.
Right, yeah, we did bulk ordering. I think that's what
Yes.
we looked at a number of years ago, and that really didn't pan out because everyone said, well, I really need this for my office and this office needs this. And now that we're with the technology, even our office, it's amazing that how much little paper that we use now, and even pens I get at conferences. I don't even buy pens anymore. I just get them for free.
John.
So.
You go to the bank, it takes the bank's,
Taking a whole different.
go to the bank and the credit union take theirs.
Oh.
Yeah, just asking because it's like $2,500, it's like every single department comes with these miscellaneous expenses. Just good to know if there's a volume discount or the town of Plimpton.
Right.
And hopefully with Office 365, that
Yeah.
helps to cut down the.
I don't mean to cut off this riveting topic, but I just want to talk about next steps to make sure we're on the same page. So I think we've heard from every department who was going to present. Would you all be okay if like we reconvene as a board, you all reconvene as a board the week of April 22nd, and then we talk about having subcommittee meetings the following week, so like early May? So we'll reconvene and kind of pick subcommittee, and so then maybe the week of April 29th, we could have our first subcommittee meeting. When do we need to be final by the May 23rd? We need to post it by May 23rd. That's a Thursday.
Yeah.
Or is it
has to be
before
to the
then?
Clerk the Friday Friday a week before town meeting. Town meeting's early this year. It's June 3rd.
24th.
So it would have to be that 24th.
Yeah, the 24th. Okay, so that leaves us 1, 2, 3, really 4 weeks to finalize everything. Should be enough.
Not to put you on the spot, I saw the House budget came out today and I think chapter 70 is up like 300 million for the state. That doesn't mean good news for us. Not a lot of good news, I guess.
Yeah. Sorry, put me on the spot. I did pull it up just before this
Okay.
meeting, so I haven't analyzed numbers yet. So we did just get an email this afternoon from the MMA. So I haven't compared them all. So I probably know that 5 minutes after we get out of this meeting. So
It's not a ton of money statewide, it didn't seem. So if we're $1 million short and it's 300 for the whole state, I don't think we're gonna get the whole million back.
yeah, my hope is, and I haven't heard any different. I think the hope is
Tuesday, April 23rd.
maintain the major state aid account.
Tuesday,
So,
April 23rd.
Governor, kept it.
If that doesn't
pretty
work,
funded,
just let me know.
small
5 o'clock.
Last year, so I wouldn't anticipate.
that work for you,
House and
Diane?
Senate cutting us
Tuesday,
below
5
that.
o'clock.
But I'll
23rd?
check the numbers.
Yeah, I was hoping they'd throw us a little more.
Yeah, if we could get more, it would be great. But I just was afraid they wouldn't come up with something less.
They found a room someplace down
Yeah.
there.
Here. Yeah. All right. Thank you.
All right.
We good?
Accept the motion to.
So moved.
Second.
They were-
Aye.